What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and today's video is going to be my somewhat routine yearly recap on how our studio did. I know a lot of you guys follow us for kind of the insider business side of how our podcast studio does. Plenty of you just watch for some of the gear reviews and other things that we do, but this video is going to be kind of a recap. So let's start out with the good stuff. So this year we had a pretty good year as far as growth goes. We did over 500 sessions, which is twice the amount that we did last year. Now, some of these sessions are the standard kind of 90-minute podcasts that we do, but plenty of them were longer ones. Plenty of them were half days, full days. And I believe it was this year that we introduced kind of our general studio content, and that's billed a little differently. We have a 2-hour minimum, and it's for kind of doing stuff like this. We've had a lot more people that are less interested in doing podcasts, but want to do talking head content or just social media things or YouTube videos or reels and whatever. And so we've seen a huge uptick in that, and that's been a good driver of revenue for us as well. I haven't added up the total new customer list, but I do track it every month, and we usually average between 10 and 20 new clients every month. Now, obviously, we lose some. The retention with everybody can vary, but we usually are acquiring fairly new customers pretty often, which is obviously a good thing to have within business. And I'll mention it a little bit later, but I feel like I'm not putting as much effort, money into marketing, just focus on this as I probably should be. I know a lot of you guys are interested, obviously, in just the sales figures themselves. We, in 2023, had hit 6 figures. And I'm very pleased to say that in 2024, we've now ventured into multiple 6 figures, which is great. So I also forecasted in my last kind of recap video that within this year, I was really hoping to move into either a new studio, and I mentioned a new building. Hopefully this year we will be acquiring a building, a larger studio. And so if you guys watched, I think, one of our last videos about moving into our new studio space, which is actually in the same building that we're in, I didn't end up purchasing a building for various reasons. The deal just didn't come to, but I think all things kind of worked out for a reason, and we ended up acquiring another 2,000 square feet in the building that we were currently in. And so there's some footage probably happening in the background of that new space, but we're just getting used to decking that out. But obviously that's been a really exciting time for us, as well as a big expense, and maybe why at the end of the day I'm not making maybe as much as this year as I did last year. But it's with the hopes that in the new year, this new space and the new opportunities it'll create are going to really help set the bar even higher for this year. Sorry to jut in here, but as I was editing, I realized I forgot to do some of the most important metrics of all, which are the channel-specific metrics. So let's dive into those now. This year in 2024, we had 5.2 thousand new subscribers to the channel. If you were one of those, give yourself a big round of applause. If you were there before that, even bigger round of applause. We did over 330,000 views across a couple of videos. I had 8 channel-specific uploads, and we did 14 hour-long studio business interviews where we interview other studio owners. We did 2 compilation videos of that for the general public, but the majority of those and the entirety of that collection of videos is on our community itself, the studio business community. Past that, a couple of notable videos that stuck out. One thing that it seems like a lot of people liked and enjoyed is we did an on-site install for a client of ours and kind of documented that process, and so people were enjoying that video. Middle of the year, we did a video with Rode and Riverside, kind of collaborating between the two. We also gave away a set of equipment to the studio business community through that video, but it was essentially kind of the best setup that we could put together for $1,000. And then most recently, we put out a video about our new studio upstairs, which you guys will be seeing more of in the near future. And speaking of the near future, while we only had 8 uploads this year, which is a couple short of what I was hoping to do, I'm hoping to double, triple that number in the new year. And that might mean that some of the quality goes down, but we're hoping to do more live streams, kind of live workshops for people that are interested in getting into the studio business, the group and or the business itself, to help kind of stoke some engagement and interest in that category. It seems like just about every week somebody reaches out saying, hey, I watched your videos, they were super helpful, whether it was in comments or DMs or anything like that. And just know that I really appreciate that, guys. I'm glad that you guys find these videos useful, and we will continue to do them moving forward. Now back to other Tom. Another big change this year was Colton joined me full-time in January, so it'll be just about a year as this video goes out. And so that, while he had worked and ramped up to, part-time, and I've told this story before, but I went from 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours, and now he's full-time. I know a lot of people that are in the studio world are interested in, hiring somebody, and I could do a video probably on that should people be interested. But it's been an interesting experience having another mouth to feed kind of full time, doing payroll and all this sort of stuff. But I wholeheartedly believe that, without Colton, the growth that we had this year just was not going to be possible. We had hit a point with the amount of sessions that we were doing that I just couldn't physically do all of them. And I really just need to give Colton his flowers for being a trooper about it. As many of you guys know, we have pretty wild hours here. We do 7 days a week, and really all hours of the day. And so to have him be able to come in on the weekends or work late night has been super helpful and kind of above and beyond in this day and age where people want to work from home and clock out directly at 5. He's never been a squeaky wheel when it came to that, and really was happy to get in the trenches with me and work hard. And I really appreciate him for that. And so another really exciting thing that I started this year was the studio business community, which is now the channel you're watching. It once upon a time was my video production business, but through doing the videos and just kind of seeing the writing on the wall, it made sense to make the change from just a YouTube perspective. But we also coupled it with kind of a back-end community where other studio owners that run podcast studios, creative studios, could join and be amongst a lot of peers. And so since launching that in April, we've had about 130 paid members over that time. But it was a new thing for me to do. I had no experience running any sort of community or any sort of kind of product like that. It's been challenging in some of the ways that you would probably imagine. Now, when I set out to do this, I didn't want to have a course or anything that was just going to solely be me. I was hoping that by doing a community, we'd have other people kind of post, contribute, engage with each other. And while I would say the majority of the members have been good about doing that, there are plenty of people that have been kind of flies on the wall, joined, never participated in the discussions, never hopped on the live streams that we do, and haven't really engaged heavily in it. And I don't know who to point the finger at. I think as the owner of the community and the reason people are there to some degree, the responsibility falls on me to make sure everybody feels included, engaged, and like entertained. But I think there've been plenty of people that maybe just wanted to see what we had going on, and then for unknown reasons maybe decided to part. But we still have a really strong community, and I'm really excited that in 2025 we're going to be buckling down even more on promoting the group and obviously doing a lot more content within the group, helping support people. Throughout the time that I've been doing it, we've seen probably 2-3 dozen separate studios launch, a lot of the members being a part of our community, and we've been able to see them start off at zero and move their way up to doing a decent amount of business, and it's been really rewarding in that sense. I've enjoyed this YouTube channel. I've enjoyed informing people of what we've done, hopefully teaching and kind of letting you guys know what's worked for us, maybe what hasn't. And it's been fun to see a lot of people take that and apply it to their business and then do well through that. So as we head into 2025 here, there's gonna be a lot more stuff coming with the studio business community. So if you're interested in checking that out, you have a studio or interested in maybe getting into it, I encourage you to check it out. There's gonna be a link down below about how you can join. So as I round out the good things that happened, I kind of want to just give myself a little pat on the back, because after watching that last video, I did accomplish a lot of the stuff that I set out to do. I said that we'd move into a new space. We did that. I had already hired Colton at that point, but I was hoping that I would be able to pay him, and I've been able to do that. We've grown. I mean, we 2x the business and then some this year too, and that's been super great. So as you guys have probably been able to tell from when I started doing these videos and I was making $1,500 a month, now we're starting to do pretty well. But that's the perfect transition to some of the bad stuff that happened this year. By having the podcast studio be such a driver of revenue and attention and focus, and me working at the podcast studio, just dealing with the traffic coming in, I found myself less interested and less focused on doing work for my video production company, Innova Digital. And for the longest time, that was the primary breadwinner. That was where we really made the big bucks. And to be fully transparent with everybody, this year, I think for various reasons, that business really tanked. And so despite the podcast studio doing really well, I did fall, I would say, decently short of some other revenue goals that I had, assuming that that business would do about the same as it did the year before. And that was just absolutely not the case, unfortunately. And I think I noticed it was happening pretty early into the year. There was a couple of months where we essentially just had like no business. And, part of me as an entrepreneur was taking it really on the chin, where it's just like, this is my thing. Why isn't it going well? But I think as time's gone on, I've been able to feel okay with it not doing as well. I think I've been less interested in pursuing that sort of work. I think I've been finding that type of business to be more of a challenge, but less of an area of interest of mine. And so as my focus, changed to focus on the studio, that business obviously suffered because of it. And I think I just had to kind of let it go a little bit this year. And so we still did some fun things. I did a documentary project. I traveled for 3 weeks. I went to Europe and all over the US, filming for a good client of ours. I fortunately probably have no footage. Maybe I can throw in some footage here. That experience was super great, and that obviously was a good project for us. And while we picked up some other things, we definitely fell short of what we did the year prior with that business. So that kind of hurt. That was what felt like, again, a little bit of a failure. Again, I think it was self-induced, but I also feel like there's a part of the market that maybe just didn't value as much of what we were doing. A lot of the clients that we were working with just didn't hit us up, didn't move forward with projects. And again, I was okay with it, but it was still a bummer and something I had to deal with this year. So in 2025, I have come to the realization that Innova Digital and doing offsite stuff is less of interest. And I think I'm just kind of gonna still pick up a handful of jobs here and there, but more or less let that business fizzle out and focus the majority of my attention on our new upstairs studio that's going to be dubbed Creator Space, as well as obviously Chicago Podcast Studio. Now, the reason for the name discrepancy, or why we didn't just call the other upstairs place Chicago Podcast Studio, is it no longer felt representative of what it was. We're getting into events and filming just other content. A good chunk of our business now is not podcasts, it's just filming videos. And so I wanted to have a space that felt a little bit more inclusive of that. And so I think that Chicago Podcast Studio will just kind of take the podcast work. They'll basically be the same thing, but Creator Space is going to be kind of the main entity and where I'm focusing the majority of my time, and hopefully pushing people into, again, hosting events or doing these kind of full day content things that will obviously have a larger sticker attached to it, and thus more work. One thing that we usually don't get involved with on downstairs is we don't handle much pre-production, if any, for podcasts. And we handle editing, but rarely, and that's because of various reasons I've talked about in other videos. But I think in the new year, we're going to have to change that. I think plenty of people would like to use our service, but just don't know how or don't have the knowledge on how to get the most out of it. I think I've seen too many businesses come in and not make the most of their time or record things that was like, why did you even do this? And so this year I'd like to get more involved in on the other sides of production, on the pre-production and the post. And so we'll see how that goes. And then again, just kind of moving people upstream into higher ticket stuff. But I'm hoping that the podcast studio will at least maintain what it did, hopefully make some additional money. But I'm hoping Creator Space itself basically doubles the size of the company is more or less what I'm hoping for. So write that down, future Tom. We'll see if you can pull it off. But I would like to grow the team, not unnecessarily, but I think now that we have 2 spaces and for events, it'll be really important to have more heads there. And maybe we can do freelance stuff, but I think having a slightly larger team would be a good experience, and hopefully we can have the numbers to support that. So I imagine in this next year, it will have at least 1 more hire, but hopefully 2. So if you've made it to the end of the video, I just want to say thank you per usual. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed these videos. I'm glad that you continue to check in, care about what we have going on up here in Chicago, and all of that sort of stuff. So I'll wrap this up. Happy holidays to everybody, and we will see you guys in the new year.